Hi everyone, Stjepan here. I'm back home from the tournament in Italy and I'm going to continue covering my games. I'm going to continue with the final round of the Paraćin Chess Open. So in the previous round you saw that win in the Italian. In round 9 I faced an opponent I actually played in round 9 of Belgrade, of the previous tournament I played. And I lost that game. So he's a tough opponent, rated about 2200, 2186. Young, I think he's about 18, 19, 20, I'm not sure. And plays really well. Okay, so in this game he had the white pieces and he opened with pawn to e4. In the previous game I was white. Okay, I played the Caro-Kann, of course, d4, d5 and e5, bishop f5, and here he surprised me, or he already surprised me with e5, which I was not expecting, but he definitely surprised me with the Tal Variation. And this variation I've had some experience with. One of my best friends in the club plays it. And I usually know how to face it, don't have many issues, but I've never really considered this as a variation that you have to study carefully, which is a mistake. Of course I know something, but I've never approached it as if it were a normal theoretical variation, which you have to know very deep. So anyway, h5 is the most sensible move. You don't have to play h5, you can play h6, or you can just do nothing and retreat the bishop back, but g4 is a threat, so you're trying to prevent it. And here my opponent played c4, which is the trickiest move, actually. It may seem counterintuitive to allow yourself to have a weakness on d4, but as you're going to see, I was never really sure about taking on c4 during this game, and that turned out to be a mistake. Okay, pawn to e6, normal move. And now we play a couple of standard moves, which, have to be honest, I was struggling to convince myself that the setup is correct. So I did spend some time, but I knew what I wanted to do, and what I did was correct up to a point. So knight e7, knight g2, the knight is coming to g3, knight d7, knight g3, bishop to g6, and bishop to g5, queen b6, the most sensible square, and queen to d2. Now, queen d2, I wasn't really sure whether he wants to castle queenside or not. I just thought he wasn't going to be castling queenside. But it's a normal developing move, which may enable him to do so. It also reinforces g5. It also, I mean, puts some pressure on my king side. And in this position, I had, I think, a 15-minute thing. And the obvious move, which when I came back to my room, started analyzing the game, I looked at the database for this position, and actually dc4 is the theoretical move, you could say. There have been 20 or so games from this position, and after bishop c4, black is the one that's supposed to castle queenside. And actually the most common move is queen to e3, which allows you to capture the pawn on b2. It did not consider castling queenside at all after dc4, bishop c4. So I was going to play this position with knight f5 and bishop e7 and so on, trying to put, to put pressure on the d4 pawn. But instead of that, I ended up playing what I thought was a better move, trading off this annoying piece that's putting pressure on my h5 pawn, and I played knight f5. So I think knight f5 is a normal move. It's not a bad move. dc4 may be better, but knight f5 is okay. So he has to trade. If he just retreats the knight, then I'm just better. I'm going to play bishop e7 and develop. So he has to take, and bishop takes. And now if he does nothing, let's say he plays bishop e2 and castles kingside. Let's say something like this, bishop e2, bishop e7, takes, for example. Or if he doesn't take, let's say he castles, I go queen d8, I don't know, rook e1, and takes on g5. Something like this, for example. And then my position is perfect. I'll have enough time to slowly build an attack and do something, or at least there is little risk in my position. But him being an extremely good player, yeah, he just opens up the center straight away, takes cd5, and doesn't give me the option to take on c4 anymore. And I have to take with the c pawn. And now bishop e2, a normal move. And here, I mean, I probably should still play normal moves. I should probably just still play bishop e7 and try to develop that way. But I wasn't really sure. I was already very much upset with my position, and I thought I had a bad position, which is somewhat true. White should be better, but it's definitely not much worse for me. Excuse me. But I thought I had to take drastic measures already. I was unfamiliar with the position. So I played a6 first, guarding against any knight b5 or bishop b5, knight b5 more importantly. And after he castled, I played f6. Now, you could say that f6 is the losing move, and it probably is, according to the engine, but the worst thing is, what's worse than that, is that I thought it would give me practical chances, which is insanely stupid. It doesn't give me any chances, it makes my position completely unplayable and way too risky, and gives him such an easy plan to win the game in a couple of moves. Suggesting alternatives, I mean, let me actually see what the engine says. I'm not really sure. The engine says f6 is the second best move and gives the position as +2 for white. It gives knight b8 as the best move, and then it gives bishop b4. Bishop b4 makes a ton of sense, trading off pieces. So yeah, the two moves that don't lose are bishop b4 and knight b8. Knight b8 I like, just getting the knight to c6. Okay, but I played f6, and the idea is after ef, gf, I have the g file, the bishop has to move, so okay, bishop to f4. And now I saw what he was going to do. I saw that he was going to go knight a4 and rook c1 and get into c7. But I thought I had this trick with bishop d6 that if he doesn't do anything, I'm going to be trading off pieces. And yeah, I was completely wrong. Rook ac1. I played king f7, which is not a good move. I need to play king e7 because I need to try to defend these two squares. Anyway, knight a4 and queen to b4. This was my idea. Forcing an exchange of queens, or if he declines, plays queen e3, then I take the bishop, he takes, and then I take the knight. So he has to trade. Queen b4, bishop b4, and I was happier. However, after rook c7, you can see the downside of not playing king e7. I'm completely lost. I played king e7 now, and here, instead of winning the game, he gave me a chance to play on. Yeah, this is just a sad position. I wanted to resign before king e7, but I didn't. What he should have done here is knight b6. And knight b6 just, it's game over. If I play rook hd8, then he takes my a8 rook. If I play rook ad8, then he can simply play rook fc1 and double up. If I ever play bishop d6, then he plays knight c8. So I can never go bishop d6. And if I don't go bishop d6, then he just builds up the pressure and eventually wins. So instead of that, he took on b7. I played bishop d6 now while I had the chance, when the knight is not on b6. Takes, rook c1. I played rook hb8. And again, in this position, he played rook c7, which gives me the option to play e5 and kind of get some breathing room in the position. Instead of that rook bc7, declining a rook trade and playing for the c6 square is just much better. I can never play rook b6, obviously. So, for example, king e7, rook 1 c6. King d8, I don't know, just bishop h5. This is far more dominating. Instead, as I said, rook cc7, e5, d5, fe5, bishop h5, rook b7, king c6, and now d4. And all of a sudden, after rook h8, I was actually happy with my position. This is actually a good position for black now. It's definitely not lost. I would say it's equal. I'm 2 pawns down, but I'm getting one of them back. Have a passed pawn on d4. My position is great. Okay, the bishop is attacked, so bishop d1, rook h4. If he takes on e5, my pawn is defended. fe5, he did take. And in this position I played king d5, which I'm gonna say is slightly inferior to knight e5, where I'm definitely perfectly equal. The main upside of knight e5 is that I don't allow his bishop to go to f3, which is the best square for his bishop. So I definitely want my knight here. It's not as if he can double attack my pieces. I have the a6 pawn, and I can defend with my king. So I should have played this. But I played king d5, which is still okay. Okay, he played e6, and I took. And now it's a pawn down, but a good position. Okay, bishop f3. This is kind of the annoying piece, and which is why I should have kept my knight on e5. He played king f2, and in this position I had a chance to just outright draw, I think, with bishop e4. I don't think he can do anything after bishop e4, because I'm just going to pile on the pressure on the g2 pawn, and it's very hard for his knight to come into the game. If he doesn't trade, then his rook doesn't have the b7 square. I mean, I think bishop e4 just draws. Instead of that, I played rook h6, which is not a bad move. Prevents knight b6, because at the moment his knight is cut out of the game, so he's going to have to bring it in with b3. So he plays b3. Yeah, in this position I made a mistake. I played bishop to b1. Now bishop to b1 is a problem because it undefends my knight on d7. Also it goes against this plan of bishop e4. He of course played rook b7, and now I just lost the game in one move. I missed a tactical trick. Or not a trick, I missed a tactic. He just played it, and yeah, it was over. Rook d6 was played. And now I lose whatever I do. He played knight b2, and I wanted to throw up. So the threat is knight c4. If I move my knight, he plays knight c4. I don't know. For example, if knight b7, knight b6 then takes, knight c4. Or if I move my king here, then he checks me. And again, everything is pinned. He just plays knight c4, I move my rook, he plays knight b6, and I lose. So whatever I do, I lose a piece. So I played knight c5. He played knight c4, I played king e6, he checked me, I went back, he checked me, then took the piece, and I resigned a few moves later. There's really no point in showing any more of this. Let me see actually how the game finished. Wait, it's not this one. Yeah, it was, I mean, it was a tough game because I should have drawn. Okay, then bishop f3, king d6, knight takes d6, king d6, rook b6 check, king e5, a3, yeah, I played bishop c2, he played b4, yeah, okay, that was it. But okay, if I don't play rook d6, if I play any other normal move, then I'm just fine. Yeah, this was tough. Okay, I mean, it was a tough way to end the tournament. I ended up scoring really well in this one. Gained a lot of points in this one, or got back a lot of points which I'd lost in the previous tournament. But yeah, I definitely did deserve to lose because of the opening. But once I managed to equalize, I should not have lost a piece like an idiot. Okay, see you tomorrow, guys. Stay tuned for more chess. Bye-bye.